Alafia, Hotep, Kamusta. Welcome to the Mind of Bro page. I am Iya Obajaguna, Yaya Reinhadas Kaveras. I am the Queen of Skulls. So today I'm going to make a video on religious abuse. The last video I made was on my experience being initiated into Kumbanda. My page is primarily spirituality and African traditional religion. So if you like that kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mind of Ro. I also have a TikTok, Instagram at Mind of Ro, and I also have a Facebook business page at The Mind of Ro. I also do readings and initiations as well. So if you're interested, go ahead and private message me either on my Facebook or on my Instagram. So I think we've all experienced religious abuse at some point, and a lot of us aren't even aware that we're dealing with it. So here are some red flags you have been religiously abused. Number one, you have been coerced to be intimate or to have sex with someone due to their religious title, and you didn't want to. Number two, religious beliefs or scripture has been used to embarrass or humiliate you. So don't confuse religious conversation. It's okay to disagree on things, but if you or somebody else are using it as an excuse to try to humiliate, embarrass, or abuse somebody, then that's not really enlightenment, that's just abuse. Number three, you've been forced to give money or resources that you did not have or did not want to give. Now, don't get it confused with a business agreement where, you got some spiritual or some religious work done for you and then you were told to pay. So don't twist that. What I'm saying is, if you got something done by a religious leader, then you should pay. Okay, so don't try to twist what I'm saying. But if you don't want to donate money, let's say you're at church and you don't have the money to donate, but you're forced to anyways, and you're shamed or feeling guilty because if you don't, that's religious abuse. My next one is number four, manipulation of faith and trust has been put onto you. Basically, what I mean is you have to trust them based on their title and not their actions. Basically, they're telling you to turn the other cheek and to never question their authority based on their title, and basically excuse any actions that seem to be very unethical just because they have a title or just because they are considered above you. Number five is fear-mongering and isolation. So fear-mongering, for example, is saying stuff like, oh, if you don't do what I say, if you don't do what this book says, you're going to burn in hell for eternity. Fear-mongering. I practice African traditional religion, so another example of fear-mongering is, if you don't do what I say, the wrath of God, the left hand of God is going to punish you forever and forever, or do this to you and do this to you, blah, blah, blah. I do practice in African traditional religions, and I do practice occult. So there is a such thing as not doing things correctly. So we have to kind of use our intuition of when it's just, are we being fear-mongered or are we being warned? Like, hey, I do have almost, I do have people that have initiated. So there are times where I have to say, hey, if you do that, something crazy can happen to you. So don't do that. It's not because I'm fear-mongering, it's because I am trying to warn somebody to say, hey, be careful what you're doing, Practicing the occult and being in African traditional religion is a little more different than, let's say, Christianity, for example. A little different practice. We're tampering with energy at that point. So, but just please know, if you aren't associated with these practices, know the difference between being fear-mongered and being warned what you should and shouldn't do. Isolation is very common. We see that a lot on movies about people being isolated, like cult-like, where they're told they shouldn't leave the land they're from, or shouldn't leave a certain home or certain place. It's a way to kind of isolate people, to brainwash them to believe in their way and only should be that. That's to the extreme when you watch these movies about cults and stuff like doing that. But it happens a lot in African traditional religion, which I know you should be close to your community and close to your Ile or Torero, whatever you're involved in. But there's a difference between, hey, we should be close versus, hey, I'm trying to control you because I don't want you to see how messed up I am as a leader, so therefore you shouldn't talk to anybody else. Know the difference between isolation and community. There's a difference between having a healthy community, a tight-knit group, and somebody trying to isolate you because they don't want you to know the truth of how messed up the group is that you're actually involved in. So these are some signs you're dealing with religious abuse. Here are some signs you have been religiously abused and it's mentally affecting you. So number one, you have had loss of faith, where you were following religion and you got so abused by, let's say, the church or your Ile or a priest, and you got to the point where, like, I feel like this whole entire religion is toxic, everybody's toxic, I don't want anything to do with it, I have lost my faith in God, I have lost my faith in a good God, I have lost my faith in priests in general, I have lost my whatever faith that I've been in. That's the result of being religiously abused. My advice to you to that is, because I do a lot of homework on religious history, I've been there, I get it. I've done a lot of history and homework on Christianity because a lot of my family on my other side is Catholic, and I just feel like, you know, a lot of people in America are Christians, so I did my homework and I got really resentful, like I feel like this is all wrong and I lost my faith in that. But know the difference between losing your faith because you're just being fear-mongered and losing your faith because you actually are learning that you have been living in some kind of illusion due to brainwashing from a system. There's a difference there. So I have been through a period when I first got initiated into my first Ile. I feel like there's just a lot of toxic energy going on. I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like how I was being treated. I knew there was something not sitting right. There's something not right about the situation. And at that point, honestly, I never told a lot of people this publicly on any of my sites, but I actually lost faith in the beginning that I almost did not want to be an Ianifa, and I didn't want to practice African traditional religion. That I got pushed to the edge where I almost didn't want my Orishas anymore, even though I know I had nothing to do with the Orishas. And the reason why I didn't stop is because I love my Orishas. I love the Orishas. I love the Netter. I love the Vodun, I love the Loa. So I stayed with the path because I love the forces of nature that I'm working with. But there's a lot of toxic people, not only in African traditional religion, but in Christianity, Islam, even Hinduism. And what's crazy is because when I did a lot of studying Hinduism, met a lot of people in Hinduism, I felt like it was one of the most peaceful religions. But trust me, I had met some pretty toxic people in Hinduism. It's everywhere. There is not one religion you could follow that's gonna have like everyone's is holier than thou and they're perfect and the rest. Like there's even Buddhists out there who are arrogant about their position. I just found out that Buddhists get initiated just like people do in African traditional religion. I met one recently. I did his hair. And he even told me that there's even Buddhists that become priests and they get arrogant. So it doesn't matter what you follow or what you dedicate your life to or what deity you dedicate your life to. People bring their arrogance into practice. So when I'm talking about faith here, losing your faith, no, we need to take accountability for who we are associating ourselves with and what we are associating our trauma with, you know? Are you really worshiping a force of nature that's not good for you? Are you really just associating with people you shouldn't be associating yourself with? So I had to understand when I had my loss of faith, like, am I really having loss of faith in my practice, or have I just lost faith in the people that I was working with? So something to question yourself, something to think about. That's one of the most common results you're going to get due to religious abuse. Number two is just feeling traumatized and emotionally distressed, which comes with anxiety, depression, and resentment. It took a long. I'm still dealing with it. It takes a long time when you're. Man, I went through multiple phases. Like when I found out about what the Christian church did, when I started waking up on that path, I was angry. It took probably almost 10 years for me to finally stop being so resentful about it, you know, and just kind of accept the past for what it is. And the emotional distress and the feeling traumatized and stuff, I still feel I'm still kind of dealing with it. But now that I'm a priestess myself, and I'm a leader, I have more space to be able to, I have like a title to be able to say, hey, even though what's crazy about this, because just even if you don't have a title, you have a right to say what you want to say. And when it comes to religions, a lot of times what's messed up about it is priests and priestesses make it seem like you have no right to say anything unless you have a title, and that's something we need to get rid of. That I don't like that. And it is kind of sad to say that I had to become a priestess and earn my title for me to feel like I'm allowed to speak and I'm allowed to say no. You know what I mean? And I know this isn't the only religion, only practice that people feel this way. So when it comes to feeling traumatized and emotionally distressed, that's obviously a normal thing. But my suggestion would be don't just live with it. Don't accept it for what it is. We gotta heal from that. There are communities that are better than that. There are people out there, and priests and priestesses, they're going to treat you better than that, so you don't constantly feel traumatized. If you're constantly feel like you're emotionally distressed, or if you constantly feel like you're being gaslit by somebody, and you're anxious around certain people or a certain group, or you feel like you're not accepted. There was an Elay I was a part of before, and I felt like I just wasn't accepted. Like, no matter what I did, I've dealt with a jealous woman before. I've dealt with people that just didn't want me in the group for whatever reason, you know what I mean? I don't know what I did to these people, you know? They're just jealous or something, or picking sides, or whatever the issue is. But I just had to learn that it doesn't identify every group. It's just, you got to find your home and take the time. If you know it's your soul tribe when you have the space for that traumatized to be healed. If you feel like you're not having that space for that traumatized to be healed in the group that you're in, because you feel like they keep adding to it, you gotta step off of that. That means you gotta go. Step out. You can't fix them, you know? You can only just work on yourself. So number 3 is constantly feeling guilty, shameful, having lack of self-worth or hopelessness. So a lot of religions would do this. You'd be like, oh, you show too much skin, shame on you. Or you have sex, shame on you. Or whatever, you have your period, shame on you. You know what, I'm just saying women think I'm a woman, so it's a little different for us and men. Whatever you guys go through, I don't know. But you cannot heal if you're in a constant place of feeling ashamed of yourself. If you feel like your leader is supposed to be helping you heal, not constantly shaming you, not constantly making you feel guilty. Now, if you're a toxic person and you're doing really bad things and unethical things, then you should probably feel guilty and shameful, and you need to correct that behavior. But if you know you're trying and you're there to heal, and you're being shamed of things that are just natural to be human, or because you're not following their constant religious, very highly strict rules that are just unreasonable, you know, then I think it's time to realize that's you're being abused, you know. I know there's no such thing as one way. It's not one way or the highway. And something I realized from working with a lot of practitioners in African traditional religions is it's always their way or the highway. And if it's not their way, then shame on you. You should feel guilty, and you're not worth anything. But they make you feel like that, and that's not okay. That's religious abuse, and we got to recognize that behavior for what it is. Not only other people doing it to you, but also realizing if you're doing it. It's not okay for it to be treating people like that, or people to be treating us like that. No religious group gets a pass. Number 4 is very, very common, is mimicking your abuser's character. For example, is behaving dogmatic, patriarchal, bigoted, due to religious abuse that has been put onto you, and you end up being like a religious leader. So there's a saying in Ifa called, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Basically what this means is we have a whole lot of blind people following other blind people. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta be careful who you're following around and seen as a leader. I don't believe there's any such thing as like the one perfect leader for everybody. There's no such thing, and we need to get this out of our mind. We need to get it out of our mind as in us being leaders, knowing like there's always going to be something that's flawed, somehow flawed for somebody else. What is good for us isn't always good for everybody else. What is good for that leader you're following isn't always good for you. We have our own purpose. We have our own will, and everyone's needs and wants are completely different, and we need to be okay with that. And something that I had to learn, I have a lot of religious leaders, and I had to learn myself, like some of them are just good for certain things, and some of them not so much. And that's okay. That's okay. You just know who should you listen to in regards to A, who should you listen to in regards to B, and leave out, you know, what it is. Like, you're not going to go to a man and ask him about period, your period. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to go to a woman and ask a woman, how do I deal with men? You were going to ask a man that, you know what I'm saying? Like, we need to know, for example, when we're dealing with African traditional religion, if you know somebody has a male Orisha over their head versus a female, like let's say, for example, I'm a child of Ogun, you want to be nourished, don't come to me. If you want to go to war and you want to be fearless, come to me. If you want to be like, oh, everything's gonna be okay, go to a child of Yemaya, you know, a priestess of Yemaya. You know, when in Rome, you know, we need to know. That's what I mean by everyone's purpose is different, and everyone's greatness is their greatness, and everyone with their it's you know, we can't judge a fish for not being able to fly when it's not meant to. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to following leaders, and just know that it's okay for them not to be perfect, and just know what they should be guiding you on and what they shouldn't. Obviously, if they're practicing bad character and they're jerks, you should probably not be following them. You know what I mean? So this is what I mean by mimicking. Knowing who you're following, and know you don't have to know everything. Like, my personal life isn't everyone's business. You know what I mean? But that's why we have a lot of people that are just lost in life, because they're following people and they think they have to follow everything about one person. Let's say somebody might follow somebody on YouTube and they're like, oh, I love this person, I'm gonna do everything they do and say, and it's like, but that's for them. That's not for you. Just take what's good for you and then leave the rest. You can't be that person, you know? So we gotta be careful with mimicking. I don't like the whole monkey see, monkey do. So like myself, as a spiritual leader myself, like when I have people I train, I say, hey, you need to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it and why it works. Once you understand why, then you're going to be able to turn it into your own practice, you know, and be able to master it yourself. Just copying and mimicking people is exactly what causes trauma to not only stay within you, but to be embedded into the next person and the next person and the next person. So we have a lot of toxic religious leaders that are teaching other people to be toxic religious leaders, and then so on. So just because your elder acts dogmatic or says this is wrong and this is wrong, this is right, it doesn't mean you have to act like that. If you know it doesn't feel right and you know it's based off arrogance, then don't be arrogant yourself and copy them because your godfather, godmother approves for you to do that, because this is your soul you're dealing with. Because all religions has to do with our soul. Our religions have the same goal, which is ascension, basically what it is. So take accountability, not only for your personality and the way you walk through life and the choices you make through life, but your own soul and your own spirit, you know? So just be mindful if you're mimicking one of your religious followers, and realize, like, what is this really good for you to be acting this way? And what convinced you to behave this way? Another one would be brainwashing, as in normalizing unethical behavior because it's religious. So obviously hurting people is wrong. You know, obviously mentally manipulating people is wrong. You don't need a Bible, you don't need the Quran, you don't need the Torah, you don't need the Holy Odu or divination to tell you don't be manipulative. You know, we're just inherently soulfully in touch and tuned to know that, you know. But growing is, and our spiritual journey is basically to be aware of when we're doing it, you know. But I mean, it's common sense to know you shouldn't be manipulating. You shouldn't be manipulating people. You shouldn't be lying to people. You shouldn't be cheating. You shouldn't be hurting people. You shouldn't be beating people up. You shouldn't be emotionally hurting people. You know, so if you know this, then why are people using their title as an excuse to make it seem like it's okay? It's okay for me to shame you as a woman and make it seem like men are better than you because it's a religious role. This is how it is in our religion. It's cool. Like, no. Either it's wrong or it's right. Either it's ethical or it's not. Either you're controlling someone's free will due to your own personal agenda, your arrogance and pride and control issues, or you're not. Either you feel happy and at peace, or you don't. It doesn't take a religious leader to tell you that. You know, it doesn't take you don't have to have a highest title in your practice to know this, you know? So can we use common sense, please? Can we be aware of just because someone has a title, it doesn't give them the right to call you 10,000 times a day and say you need to give them money or enforce you to marry a priest against your will, even though you don't want to be with that person, or enforce you to have sex with them because it's going to give you some kind of more power if you have sex with them. No, if it's not okay for a regular person to do it to you, then why is it okay for a religious person to do it to you? You know, can we gotta wake up to this, you know? And the issue with a lot of priests take advantage of this. You know, I've had like somebody hit me up that somebody's saying, hey, somebody tried to tell them to take all their clothes off and a picture and send a picture, naked picture of herself, you know? And somebody's like, is that normal? I'm like, is it normal for anybody to hit you up in Messenger and tell you to send them a naked picture? Is it ethical at all? If the answer is no, then it's no, you know? We gotta stop giving people excuses or giving people like passes because they have a religious title. Like, if it doesn't feel right, if it feels like you're being you're being invaded, you know, if it feels like it hurts, if it feels like the person, if you feel energetically that person is just aggressive and mean to you, and they're using their title to be able to just boss you around and control you, like, oh, this is how we do it, it's okay for me to treat you like this. And it's abuse. Abuse is abuse. And it's not okay. If you are going to a religious group, you're going there because you're trying to find God and you're looking for a leader to help you find peace and healing within yourself. And nobody should be taking advantage of you. No one should be making you feel constantly suppressed, isolated, in fear, feeling like you're less than them, feeling hopeless, feeling powerless. If you feel completely powerless, you're not, I can't say you're not in the right religion. You're not in the right group. You're not dealing with the right person. Because religion is supposed to be healing you. Religion is supposed to be connecting you with source. Religion is to give you people that you feel safe with. If you don't feel safe physically, emotionally, sexually, or spiritually, then it's not okay. If you feel like the person you're dealing with is obviously putting their hands on you, making you feel like you're being harassed sexually or forcefully being touched in any, you know, abusive way, clearly that's physical abuse. That's not okay. Mentally, if you feel like you're being constantly gaslit by your religious leader, like you feel like you have to constantly doubt your own intuition, that's mentally abuse. If you feel like you're emotionally traumatized, you feel like you're not being heard, and you feel like you're constantly being ashamed of yourself all the time, you're being emotionally abused. If you feel like your religious leader is going to go do something behind your back and curse you, or go to their pots in African traditional religion and try to control you, try to put a binding spell on you, or try to do something against your will, and you feel like you always have to sleep with one eye open, that's called spiritual abuse. You know you're at the right home when you feel mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically safe. If one of these things are out of whack, then you need to leave. You need to go. This is called abuse, and nobody gets a pass. It's not okay for anybody to treat you this way. So religious trauma syndrome is when an individual believes their way is the only way, and anyone who goes against their way is evil or misguided. I'm sure you've heard that a lot. There's a lot of, I had to break away from the Christian group, and the reason why I started practicing African traditional religion, because I deal with that a lot. I still deal with it today. Feeling like if you don't do it their way, it's the highway. If you don't feel like you don't believe in everything that I believe in, then you're wrong and you're ashamed, blah, blah, blah. Or it's very common in fathers. We have different elays. If you feel like someone's not doing it your way, then they're misguided. Not saying people are not misguided if they're not doing it your way. That's not what I'm saying, because I'm sure there's some right things within your religion. But we need to be mindful of our own arrogance, okay? If they're being abused and controlled somehow, then yes, obviously they're being misguided. That's just common sense, you know? But if they're just not doing it your way, but if they're not hurting themselves and they're not hurting other people, and it's bringing them happiness and bringing other people happiness, then they're not being misguided. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? They're not hurting themselves, they're not hurting others, they're happy, and they're bringing happiness to others. Okay, that's not being misguided. So we need to like understand the difference between being misguided, really being misguided, or arrogance because you think everything needs to just be your way. So it is an issue with a lot of African traditional religious houses always fighting against each other because they feel like, oh, it's not my way, that therefore you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. We need to respect the fact that no matter what it is, it's like, look at the Christian church, it's completely divided in all these different denominations, you know? Everything is their way. We need to respect that. We need to respect the fact that if somebody wants to be Buddhist, let him be Buddhist. If somebody wants to be a Christian, let him be Christian. If somebody wants to practice voodoo, let him do that. Now, when they're doing it in a toxic way, like if they want to practice voodoo because they want to control other people's will, then voodoo is not the issue. They are the issue. If somebody wants to be a Christian, that's fine. Let them go to the church. But if they're using Christianity as a reason to try to shame and abuse people and control people, then that's the issue, you know? Now, people are using their religion to live a lie. This is called cognitive dissonance, very common dissociation in religious trauma syndrome, where when a clear fact is put in front of your face and you refuse to see it. This is called religious trauma syndrome, is because you just want to follow with faith or believe in something to cover up your own trauma or live some kind of lie. Then you are the one being misguided. You're the one being misguided. And yes, we should be helping people wake up. Like, hey, you need to wake up and see this stuff. But we also need to learn when to let go. We also need to learn when it's like, okay, we share this information and let people let who they are and let them grow on their own terms in their own time, you know? And it doesn't give, like, let's say we know something about the truth behind the history of religion, and we know how people should be treated and how they shouldn't be treated, and that person just, no matter what you say, they don't want to see it, you know? It doesn't give us an excuse to try to control them and manipulate them to go on to be on our side. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make you any better than other people doing that, and they're doing it based off lies or manipulation. It doesn't give anybody right, no matter what you know, no matter what you believe, no matter what you feel is righteous and what is not. It still does not give you an excuse to try to control the next person. We have to let people go. It's that grasp we want to have. You know, we need to let go. We need to let people grow on their own time, you know, and be okay with that. And we need to be okay with ascending or learning on our own and learning how to not be like that crab in the bucket, where like as soon as you try to come out of the bucket, other people try to grab you in and stuff like that. And don't be the crab. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So that's really hard to do when you really love people. I get it. Like if you're like aware of things and trust me, I have a sister that I love so much. We fight and I can't stand fighting with family, but the ones we love the most, like there's a part of us that loves people so much, we get controlling. You know what I mean? And we need to learn that's not love. Love is not control. Love is like planting seeds and letting go. And it makes you feel better. And because if we don't do that, we get stuck in the cycle with them. And we need to take accountability for that cycle that they're in, and for us to not participate in that cycle with them or mimic that cycle, like I mentioned earlier, mimicking people and stuff like that, or using a different reason to mimic them. This is religious trauma syndrome. So we gotta be mindful of that, because they're not doing it our way, then they're evil or misguided and stuff like that. Just know the difference between really being misguided or being just arrogant because you just want everything your way. So remember that teachings can be changed to fit someone's agenda, and we need to be mindful of that ourselves. There's a lot of people out there making a whole lot of money off religion. And we need to be mindful of ourselves, because we have a right to charge people for services. Like if you're like a Reiki practitioner, you have a right to charge people. And I think it's ridiculous that people are out there and they're like, oh, sorry, I'm writing a message. Shoot, what was I saying? I got off track. Oh my God, I lost my track. I was reading the text. I was reading the text that popped up on my phone. Oh yeah, religious teachings can be changed to fit someone's agenda. We need to like be mindful of ourselves when we're like making money off of religious services. You know, are you lying to people and trying to manipulate people to buy more things, knowing that they don't need it? You know what I'm saying? Like a dentist isn't going to be like, I need to do a root canal on you, knowing they don't need one. Like, come on, like practice good character. This is called the poverty mindset. If you have to go to this point, if you feel like, you know how many priests that try to blow my phone up to try to force me to get services with them and try to tell me that I don't know what I'm doing and I can't do my own readings, blah, blah. That's manipulation. And then that's like shaming me. Like, first of all, y'all don't even know me. Like, how would you even know? Like, have we met before? This is the stuff that I'm talking about, you know? That's a hidden agenda. So we gotta be mindful of not only other people's agendas, but are we being like that? Like, I understand that we need money, you know, but it doesn't give you a right to lie and manipulate people, harass people, or try to make it seem like somebody needs something that they really don't need, or saying that you did something for somebody and you didn't do it, then you're just trying to get money out of people. Like, you're like, karma's gonna get you for that. You know, we gotta take accountability. And please listen to your intuition. If it doesn't feel right, if it feels like that person's funny style, listen to your gut. Like, and don't let them fearmonger you. You know how many people that I've had come to me that they're like, oh my God, they're scared that they're gonna be cursed or controlled by somebody if they don't pay for something. Like, if y'all feel like that, find somebody to protect you. That's not okay. And the fact that people are like, oh, you're stepping on people's toes. Poverty mindset, okay, is basically the idea to think that there's not enough wealth or money to go around unless you manipulate people. Like, if you believe that, you need to work on your Rory or your Ori. You need to work on your head. There's plenty of wealth, abundance, and prosperity to go around for everybody. Don't let this media propaganda convince you that we're running out of money, we're running out of food, we're running out of water. You're going to be okay. As long as you're following your higher purpose, you're being a good person, and you're making the sacrifices you need in life, like you're actively doing what you need to do to create abundance in your life, you're going to be fine. If your neighbor's rich, it's not going to make you less rich. If you stop being manipulative, you're not going to make less money. You're actually going to make more money if you actually know how to be more business minded. Like, to me, like, I just moved recently, and I had like somebody trying to manipulate me about my car. And I was like, do you know how much more money you would make if you actually just ran a legit, honest business? Like, you're going to put all that energy into manipulation when you could just put all the same amount of energy into just running a good business and being a good person, and then actually be gifted by the gods wealth. These are your options here. You know what I mean? So be mindful of hidden agendas. If you feel like somebody's acting funny towards you, if they're acting stalkerish, blowing your phone up, are charging you way too much, and you're like, that's a mortgage payment, you know, you get it. You do the math. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people. I'm not saying there's not such thing as spiritual work that could cost thousands of dollars. But I'm just saying, just keep your options open. You know what I'm saying? You get what you're paying for, and then pay attention to people's character. If they're not practicing good character, if they're being mean to you, if they're trying to fearmonger you, think, oh, you're going to die if you don't get this work done by me. Then I'm like, well, I was alive yesterday, I'm alive today. I highly doubt you're gonna die if you don't get work by them. You're gonna be okay. Okay? This is called fear mongering. So just be mindful of that. There's a lot of people who change certain things and religious groups to try to, make money for their own personal agenda, or because they just want to be better than people, you know what I mean? And then they teach people the same thing and they do it themselves. They act like that themselves, and then so on, and they teach people to act like that, and so on, so on, so on. They feel like they're getting something out of it. People need to be healed. Let them go. I'm not saying to argue with people like that. I'm not saying to get into a spiritual war. I'm just saying pray that they have money that in a less manipulative way, and move on. You know what I'm saying? You're not slave to anybody. You don't have to get work done by anybody if you don't want to. So here's some things you could do to help you heal. Number one is, I had to realize this myself as well, even though I knew it before I was going through religious abuse, but I had to remind myself this, is to separate your values with your religion. So a lot of religious leaders will convince you to go against your own personal values. Like, if you know sleeping with somebody just to have power or just to be initiated into something, if it feels wrong and goes against your values, then don't convince somebody that, well, lady, I please protect yourself. There's people, oh my God, it's really bad out there. And the fact that women need to be scared to stand up for themselves against this kind of stuff is exactly the problem. That's the issue. There's a lot of women really scared of priests because of this. Children scared of priests due to sexual harassment and stuff like that. And here's the red flag. You know that they're abusive. They don't let you speak on it. Of course you're not allowed to speak on it. You know why? Because they don't want you to tell anybody that you're or they are being abusive. Of course they don't want you to say anything. Because they don't want to be found out. They don't want anybody to be like, yo, this person needs to be dealt with. This person needs to something needs to be done, So if you feel like you're like, I want to speak on this and I feel like I'm being abused, I feel like I'm being sexually harassed, and they tell you that you can't speak about any of it, and they're trying to threaten you and stuff like that, clearly this is something wrong, and that's trying to control your will with fear. If you need a safe home to go to, ladies, I'm a woman. I will not sexually harass you. Okay. I'm strictly diggly. I invite women to my group that feel sexually harassed. I do have men in my group, and they're safe to be around. So please come to me if that's what you feel like you need. If you need a woman around, I get it. I'm a woman who it's been really hard. It's a struggle to find people in African traditional religions that could be like your person you go to that's gonna help protect you and stuff like that. So if you're dealing with that kind of stuff, I'm here for you. You could come talk to me about that kind of stuff. So just be mindful of your values versus religion. Like I had to realize, like, if I know being gaslit is wrong, if I know being manipulated is wrong, or if I know fear-mongering is wrong, but then they're trying to normalize it in the religion, then I had to reevaluate, like, well, maybe it is, I was even convinced for a while, like, maybe this is normal, this is part of the religion, I guess it's okay if it's part of the religion. No, like, that's what brainwashing is it's like, you see continuous, you see so many people doing it, and it's continuing normalized and told to you over and over again that it's okay. But deep down inside, it's not in alignment with your morals and values. Then you gotta ask yourself, why are you okaying it? Are you okaying it because, are you scared? Are you scared that if you don't okay it, if you stand up for yourself, that a person's gonna abuse you, control you, stalk you, curse you, put your name in their pot? Are you doing it because you're using it as an excuse so you could be arrogant and controlling and fear-mongering yourself because you have insecurities and you feel like you found empowerment to be able to treat others this way? We need to take ownership of, if you are trying to okay this behavior, why? Are you scared of the person you're dealing with? Or are you manipulative and arrogant and controlling yourself, and you're just using it as an excuse to stay that way? Number two is tie to heal is have healthy boundaries. Somebody shouldn't be blowing your phone up all the time. You know, I understand if you're having a discussion over text and stuff like that, if you guys are talking, if you guys have to, you know, stuff like that. Just like I try not to talk too much, even to my almost after a certain amount of time. It's a little different because back when I was on the West Coast, where we're like a 3-hour, you know, difference, I try not to do that and stuff. But have healthy boundaries. You know, there's no reason for somebody to be constantly blowing your phone up all the time, constantly knowing every single thing you're doing in your life. You should be talking to your elder about your godparent about certain things to, you know, better your life. But have some boundaries. You know, if they're the opposite sex or whatever, you know, if you're a woman, your elder, and your elder is like, let's say it's a guy and he's like around your age, don't let him convince you that because he's your elder, he's allowed to just come stay at your house all the time, just live there. You know what I'm saying? And like knowing it could ruin your personal relationship with your partner. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be boundaries. You know, I understand we want to take care of our elders, but you shouldn't be like feeling guilty or ashamed or you know what I'm saying? Like I understand we should help our elders. Like if something happened to me, I mean I would like my elders to be there for me. You know, but I mean have some boundaries with the people you're working with, religious groups and stuff like that. Be okay with saying no. Working with priests could be, especially as a woman, could be scary sometimes to learn how to say no, learn how to set boundaries. I don't know how it is with men, but I know as a woman practicing African traditional religion, it can be really hard to say no. It could be really hard to say, I don't agree and I don't like that, because we are often controlled and manipulated and fear-mongered by men a lot, and as women. So that's something that I had to do a whole lot of occult work and go through a lot of initiations and do a lot of mindfulness practices and meditations and self-evaluation and healing myself to get rid of fears and my own dogma and my own false beliefs that was put into me due to religious beliefs, stuff like that. Because we could actually be convinced that we're not supposed to set boundaries. Like people in religious groups can convince you that you're not allowed to set a boundary, and that's not okay. And that doesn't matter what religion, doesn't matter what relationship you're in, whether it's friends, family, romance, even your own children. You have a right to set boundaries. You have a right to say no. You have a right to say I don't like that. You have a right to say that. You know. So have healthy boundaries. They're the best way to keep controlling people away from you or religious abuse away from you is saying, hey, no, that's not okay. And I don't care what your title is. I don't care how much power you have. I said no. No. You know what I mean? Where am I? Next one, number 3 is know that you're not alone and find some support. I've had to reach out to a lot of people and realize that there's a lot of people. My first phase I went through was dealing with a trauma from Christianity, and I ended up meeting a whole lot of people who were there with me. They get it. They've experienced the same thing. So it made me feel a lot better during my healing time to know that I wasn't alone. If you see something that's not right and everybody around you is not seeing it, it can make you feel like you're going crazy. It can make you feel like you're alone in the world, and it's really hard to heal if you constantly feel like you're being isolated or alienated when you could see something and they can't, you know. So find a support group. I ended up finding a lot of people who seen, you know, what was going on with the Christian church and why a lot of the things they do is toxic and why it's not good, and the lies they've embedded into the minds of billions of people. When it comes to African traditional religion, find a support group and know that everybody isn't controlling and everybody isn't toxic. There's actually really great Iyas out there, really great Tatas and Yayas, really great Babalaos out there that do not have hidden agendas. They're not there just trying to get a bunch of money out from you. They're not going to sexually harass you. They're not going to use their title to try to control you. And there's actually great Ilays out there that are actually more friendly and not negative, controlling, evil, crazy, dark occultists. You know what I mean? There's a lot of good people out there. There's a lot of people out there that are inherently just in the practice because they just want to heal, because they just want to help other people. And they're great people. I mean, I love my Baba. I trust him. I never feel like he's ever going to do anything crazy behind my back. I know that if I ever need enlightenment, I know that he's always going to answer his phone. He's going to be there for me. And that's, and to be honest, that can be very hard to find, not only in religion, but in the world, you know? But you're not alone. I've experienced a lot of religious trauma, and I'm still going through, you know, some things to heal from, and I'm still dealing with resentment and realizations of things within myself that was embedded into me that I'm working on getting rid of due to normalizing certain behaviors from religious groups and stuff like that. And it's a life process. It's a lifelong process. You're not just all of a sudden going to realize it and wake up and be like 100% better. You know, it takes time. It takes time to realize what is making you behave that way. Sometimes we have doing certain things and we would even consider it being due to religious abuse or any kind of abuse, spiritual abuse, or even romantic abuse, whatever it is. There's a lot of things we have embedded within us that's from abuse, and we don't even realize it. And we're doing it ourselves, and we're traumatized from it, or we are suppressing ourselves, you know, or shaming ourselves due to the history of abuse, you know. So seek support, reach out. Maybe I should come up with a group online for religious abuse. Maybe I should think about doing that. Maybe that's something I should do. Yeah, reach out and find some people that will support you and know that you're not alone, and they don't have to even be part of your religion, you know. I mean, when I'm not happy, I mean, I do practice African traditional religion, and one of my great friends, she's Christian, and I work with her, you know, and I talk about things all the time, and she's so supportive, you know. Support is support. Find your support group, you know, find your people, like find your soul tribe that's gonna be there for you, you know. But you also have to reach out. There's a lot of people that like to shut down and isolate, and like, why aren't people reaching out? Because you don't talk to anybody. How are we supposed to read your mind? You know, like if you need help, you have to say something, you know, you have to reach out or you're not going to get it. And it's out of all the healing that I've been through, whether it's due to injuries that I've dealt with or domestic violence or religious abuse, having support around me has been like the biggest healer. Obviously doing Orisha work and meditating and, you know, doing my own stuff, but that has one. Don't underestimate a support group. They do a lot. Please don't isolate when it comes to that kind of stuff. You need someone there to say, hey, I'm there for you. I get it, you know. Number 4 is you got to know what you want for yourself. If you do not know what you want for yourself, if you don't know what you want for your future, nobody can help you. And if you don't know, it's going to be really easy for a religious leader to tell you what to do with your life and tell you who to be and tell you where to go. And if you're completely lost, it's going to be really easy for a narcissistic leader to take advantage of that. If you have no idea which direction you're going through in life and you're completely lost, you are the best person to control an occult. You're going to be the best person to control religiously. So don't be the perfect person to be controlled. Don't be the perfect person to be religiously and spiritually abused. You got to take accountability for that all as well. You need to know what you want for yourself and what direction you want to go. Who do you want to be, you know, so that you're not being tied to a group and brainwashed and convinced to normalize certain behaviors that shouldn't be because you don't know any better because you don't know anything. Please do your homework. Please do the math. Please listen to your intuition, and please know thyself. That's a journey of spirituality. All forms of spirituality and religion is know thyself. Know your connection to source, and know like you don't need a priest to connect you to God, the universe. You're already connected, you know. I'm not saying priests can't give you wisdom, because obviously that's what we're here for, you know. But I would say the key to being not manipulated by people is basically knowing thyself and knowing what you want for yourself. so that you can't be told what to want for yourself. You can't be told who to be, what to do, if you know what you want for yourself. It is our job as leaders to guide you to the best version of yourself, who you want to be, not the worst version of yourself. If you feel like you're being somebody that you don't want to be, and you feel like they're bringing that worst out of you, that ain't right for you. Last but not least is get help, guidance, and therapy for religious trauma. It doesn't always have to be, it could be another priest or priestess to go to due to your own religion, and find someone you could talk to, that can give you that clarity that you're searching for. It always makes you feel better. It always made me feel better knowing to talk to one elder that's like saying, that's not okay. And helping me understand that I'm not crazy, I'm not tripping. Like, I know it doesn't feel right. And then to meet somebody that's saying, hey, you're right, it's not right. It's not okay for them to treat you that way. So either get some therapy or some guidance from a different religious leader, or simply a psychologist, a simple Western medicine, just talking to somebody who specializes in all forms of religious trauma and abuse. Professional help, someone that's educated to know how to work with that specific type of trauma. Back when I was in my 20s, I went through trauma counseling, and that was my biggest step that I took to healing trauma from abuse and stuff like that. So any kind of trauma counseling, any kind of trauma therapy is definitely gonna be good for this kind of stuff. Sometimes I still think I need to talk to people, get some help for it, because I still feel resentful about certain things, and feel like I've been shamed for feeling resentful, and sometimes it's just good to find somebody to talk to that's going to listen to you and help you realize that you shouldn't feel ashamed for being mindful of abuse, and only an abuser will make you feel ashamed for being mindful of abuse. So that's the end of this video. My next video is going to be on the toxicity of the sex war that's going on. I'm sure you've noticed men hating women and women hating men, and this is toxic, and I want to touch base on it. I'm gonna talk about it and get into it, yo. And I'm probably gonna make that I don't know, should I make it a 3-video series? I might not. I have to think about it. We'll see. But look out for that next video. I'm going to make the toxicity of the sex war. Men don't need to be hating women, and women don't need to be hating. But I'm going to let you know right now, you're going to trigger it when I make the video, because a lot of you men are going to be prideful about your manhood, and a lot of you women are going to be prideful about your womanhood. But that trigger was embedded into you due to emotional manipulation from the media, so be ready for that. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mind of Ro. Ankh Uchasaneb, Namaste, peace, Odabo.